I'm going to get you to read this book one way or another. Because it can change your life. And it changes your life because it changes the way that we see life initially. That's the number one thing. Our perception of life changes, and then we see more Spirit in it. Now, we're not the first one to see the life of God in all of life. This was a common thing that went back and forth in the first, 3rd century within Christian thought. But the folks who believed that there was a God up there and man down here, and there was a separation, they won that argument at least somewhat. In Eastern thought, for instance, I just learned this, there is no original sin in the Eastern Orthodox Church. And so for us to really be able to access, so we've been talking about the thing itself and the way it works, and this week we're talking about what it does, but to access it, we have to kind of leave a few things behind. You can pick them back up if you want, if it works for you. But one of the things that we really want to do is to expand what we know the nature of the divine is, and to know that even the God word is a limitation. In fact, any word is a configuration of letters that point to reality. It's not reality. The word infinity is not infinity. Even the symbol is not infinity. It's pointing to a concept which is really hard to describe. And yet this is kind of one of the key ways that we allow ourselves to open up our mind to knowing that we are playing around with, exploring, being spiritually curious to see what it means to be connected with the infinite intelligence that is the wellspring itself, expressing as this manifest universe in the grand scheme, and expressing our life as the individualized expression of this great thing. But we have to let some stuff go. So we might want to, one of the things that Holmes talks about is that heaven and hell are states of consciousness. They are not places. So we kind of have to let that one go for a while. So I found this, someone sent me this Larson cartoon. Here's, welcome to heaven, here's your harp. Welcome to hell, here's your accordion. And I'm not sure where Weird Al is in that. We can all appreciate the accordion. But so one of the things that we were exploring was God is way more than we think it is. It's way more than we think it is. And what that means is that even for those of us who have been engaged in this question since childhood, I remember being a little kid scratching my head about this stuff. We're continually evolving, particularly if we are committed to staying spiritually curious, which is really the only thing that's necessary to do this thing we call the science of mind and spirit. So we explored many names, the center and the circumference. I like that one. That'll get your mind twisting. But underneath all of it is first cause. Because what we are teaching here is the notion that there is an infinite intelligence, the wellspring of love itself that is both impressing and expressing itself in, through, and as all of existence, in, through, and as all of life. And we are one with it. That there is some aspect of ourselves that is that. So we may not be all of the ocean, but certainly all that the ocean is what we are. The drop of the seawater has all the components of the ocean within it. So we are the drop of consciousness, the individualized expression of this majestic, universal, creative impulse of life expressing itself as love. So God is way more than we think it is, and we understand that we are immersed in it. So like right now, we're breathing it, it's breathing us, we're swimming in it, It's at the very essence of who we are. It is. So we now know the secular, godless physicists, maybe godless, are saying that even the smallest aspects of matter, an atom, a quark, an electron, it's mostly space. I just think, well, I'm going to allow my concept of the divine to be that which fills that space. That way, all that I am is expressing at the most minute aspects of my existence. All 4 trillion cells are expressing as the divine. So now I just want to align myself, my energetic, with that. And there's the rub. So we understand that we are immersed in this thing, this intelligence, that we are immersed in an infinite intelligence, which we perceive that there is a spiritual presence and an infinite mind in the universe. That perception is which constitutes our receptivity to it and decides its flow through it. That this intelligence can acquaint us with its ideas, though, only as we are able and willing to receive them. So what we can draw from it, we must draw through the channel of our own minds. Now, when we're firing on all life, we're on FanDuel and we're hitting all our bets. No, not that. But we are opening ourselves up to the creative impulse of life, and it is demonstrating. We are feeling loved. We are being loving. Our bank account is in the black. Our car is nice. People see us and want to be us. We don't think about the spirit much in those days. Most humans don't. But it's when we're feeling a little dry, the spiritual doldrums, if you will. That's when we feel the separation. And yet, even then, as we open our minds up and understand that we are the channel through which the Spirit flows, we can maybe work with this metaphor, that it just takes a wee stream to get the flow going. And that flow is determined by what? Not that the flow is not there, but that we allow it to happen. Now, if we stay with this metaphor of water, water doesn't flow uphill. It doesn't flow against resistance. In fact, it doesn't even flow on the level. There has to be a deepening. There has to be a deepening on one end for the flow to happen. And so within our own understanding of the divine, there needs to be a deepening, which really is a willingness to remain spiritually curious. That is not much effort. And yet when we're stuck, it feels like we're trying to, like the Atlas trying to lift the earth itself sometimes. Or is that just me? Okay. Thank God. Holmes once wrote that the stream flows around and through us, but the Spirit cannot drink it for us. It's a great way to put it, isn't it? So again, the intelligence by and through which we perceive that there is a spiritual presence and an infinite mind in the universe, this constitutes our receptivity to it and decides its flow through us, not in some kind of Jedi mind trick. This is not the life you're looking for. Although if you live to be 400 or 500 years like Yoda, maybe you could pull that trick off. Who knows? We just scratched the surface of our potentiality, of our full realization. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's a part of me that's bummed out that I had to live this long to understand that I can live a spiritually realized life. It's a shame in some ways, right? But it takes what it takes. And unfortunately, I found God through whiskey. which many people do, I know. But I took it too far. So then I heard about this thing called a higher power, because I was done with the God thing. Well, that was something I could work with. That's what made me spiritually curious. But I still had to unpack a bunch of stuff. And our understanding of the Spirit may be like the Force, but not in some fantastical kind of way, but in a much more practical and accessible way. So for some folks, it can look like this: sitting in community, talking, maybe even like here in quiet contemplation, or it can look like this, just being one in nature. This is where I prefer that natural environment, and I love how Wayne spoke to how even in an urban environment, we can find ways to connect with life. It's weird to be a tree hugger, but there's something about that. If you've never done it, in fact, that will be your homework assignment today, is to go find a tree to hug and just say, I love you, and then just breathe with it a couple times and see if you don't feel a resonance. But the thing is that it's natural. We're not playing, it's not supernatural, although it appears to be in its demonstration. When we start playing around with this, I guarantee you, you will have moments where you feel so connected with the Spirit that you cannot feel humbled and awestruck. You will see it demonstrating in ways that will blow your mind. In ways great, and as we attune our perception in small ways too. Holmes himself says that we overcomplicate this thing. That the best way to use it is to find the simplicity of it all. That love is all there is. That the law makes it all possible. So we open up ourselves to this natural way of being. It is the nature of the universe to give us what we are able to take, because it's infinite, remember, but we are able to take. It cannot give us more. It has given all, and we have not yet accepted the greater gift. So going back to this metaphor then of the stream, remember it was in the parched area, so we begin to feel the flow of life is kind of overflowing even the boundary that we had set before, because we opened ourselves up. And then we find then that the Spirit is quenching the thirst in many areas of our life that we didn't even know were dry. As we open and deepen the universal flow, then what happens? It increases and attunes our awareness, expands our awareness is really what's going on. You know, there's been a lot of this thing around the word woke that became kind of a divisive thing. But, you know, before that, we used to say people were aware. Awake and aware. It's a much more powerful way of seeing it. Self-awareness. How am I in the world? Cosmic awareness. How is the world with me? How am I one with the world? In the teaching that I grew up in, we paid people to do that part for us. We paid the priest or the nuns or the monks through our contributions to have these thoughts for us. But, you know, you can do that here if you want, but I would much rather lead a congregation of people who are self-aware, willing to do the work of inviting more Spirit into their life, and to witness to each other and to demonstrate the infinite power and presence of the divine to each other. And then you know what happens? You have a spiritual community that continues to thrive since the late 70s in this very place, not based on pounding people into submission, but rather to encourage folks to go deeper and to allow the flow of life, the law of circulation in ways that are prosperous, yes, but also, more love, more creativity, relationships that have give and take in them. And then the funny thing about that is that even the folks that we appear to have been in discord with, that even shifts. Because something within us shifts. We start to see that they too are awakening to their own definition of what the divine is. And we're okay with that. We're not judging that either, in spite of possibly being judged ourselves. That's a heavy lift. But we do know intuitively, if we follow this logic chain, then we understand that the Spirit is expressing, or appears to be expressing, in some places more than others. But it is you and we differentiate this universal possibility. The truth is that we are living in a field of infinite possibilities for good. This is the truth. And at the same time, each state of consciousness taps the same source, but has a different receptivity. So again, we're just working on allowing. Knock and I shall enter. Each receives what he asks for, according to his ability to embody. So in other words, at the deepest levels of our subconscious, we are open and receptive. The universal is infinite, and the possibility of differentiating is limitless. Now, the obvious thing is that sometimes things don't demonstrate the way we want them to. So what's up with that? Well, no one goes about saying, I need to get a new car, and I hope it's an old jalopy with 4 bald tires and spews smoke. But yet some of our relationships look like that. We're looking for a Maserati, and we demonstrate a Pinto. We're looking for a job that pays us handsomely, and yet, I'm working for this Yahoo. What has to shift? Our receptivity. Now, mind you, this is deeply embedded stuff. Somewhere, somehow, something has been downloaded within us that says, we don't deserve that. We're not good enough. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a little humility. Pure humility is knowing that you know your stuff and being able to speak your truth with getting your Irish up, getting all insecure and, you never and blah, blah, blah. We're going to be learning about this afternoon. We're stepping into a consciousness of receptivity that knows that my job is not the source, my source and supply. That my relationship is not the source of my love. I am a generating center of the love of the universe itself. That I am surrounded by loving people. And that my beloved who I'm in relationship with lives from this same place. One day at a time. One day at a time. So it's the sum total of our thought, all our thought, will, purpose, belief, that creates a tendency in this law that causes it to react to us according to our beliefs. So what we need to do is shift and lift the tendency of our thinking. So if we have a big pile of, let's call it challenge, a big pile of challenge over here, and we have a cliff over here to get rid of it, how do we move it? One shovel load at a time. And then we take it over and we dump it. And as we work with the tendency of the shoveling, pretty soon there's no pile. And it's gone where? Who cares? Then our job is not to create a new pile. Because the tendency of our thinking may be, we may be a good pile demonstrator. So walk away with knowing this, that the Spirit is longing to express itself through you in the most impersonal of ways. It is a love that is unconditional, that it knows only to say yes as the law of its own being. So if you think about the way electricity works, right? Electricity needs to be grounded in order to work. It doesn't care whether it expresses as a light bulb or as an electric motor, as a kid's toy or a Tesla. It just demonstrates the power and presence of the divine works in the same way, bound only by the restriction of our own perceptions, judgments, resentments. And so really the key to it is to allow ourselves to be love. To be love in the way that we think, in the way that we speak to ourselves and others, in the way that we act. And then to know that our needs are met before we even utter the word. That there is but one power, one presence, one source, one life, one living intelligence that is the wellspring of love itself. That we launch into it now, our highest aspirations, intentions, cares, concerns, and especially those ways of thinking that no longer serve us. We're just releasing it all to a field of God consciousness, knowing that what returns to us is for our highest good. And so we invite more love, more overflow of prosperity, more creativity, relationships that are fulfilling and connected, and call us to the greatest expression of who we are, who champion us to be that demonstration of the infinite law of life as our life and those around us. Let's practice that today. Take that into the week.